Hang On Air is live. So we appear to be having some technical difficulties on Steve's side. This has happened a couple of times, and I've actually heard on DTNS they've had this problem where the second person in, or the moderator or whatever, can't be heard. Do you want to try leaving and come back, Steve, or should I try muting you and unmuting you? I'm going to mute you. And now I can't unmute you. You need to do it yourself. No. I cannot. Talk again? Yeah, it's not hearing you because it's not bringing your face up like it should. And I'm assuming the nobody can see you. Okay, John. Let's see, John. Remove the S from HTTPS and it will work. This is going to get old. I got a note to self. Ask Bart why that redirect isn't working. Actually, I will show you guys. Steve, you might, I think, yeah, okay, good. He went ahead and dumped out. I'm going to show you why the chat room, or why you're not seeing the right thing on the page. So, yes, I am wearing a Michigan shirt, Denise. So this is what's called the .htaccess file, and this controls, this is what I use to create all those cool logins. Oh, Steve's back. Can we hear you? No, I cannot hear you. Do you see little, do you see the little green lights bouncing, Steve? Okay, I guess check your inputs while we're doing it. Podfeed, I'm seeing a rerun. Kevin's saying it's not even playing the right show. Well, what? Let me see what happens if I hit it. Yeah, no, I'm not getting a rerun. I'm getting the real one, so that should be there. So anyway, I was explaining this is the .htaccess file, and this is what I use, these rewrite rules here. So if you go to podfeed.com/funwithflags, this is what tells you that you go to the Amazon affiliate links by country URL. But apparently, there you are.
All right. I think when I cleared my cache, it deleted the microphone setting.
Okay. Good. Okay, so we have Steve. That's what's really important here.
And I am seeing the live video on podfeed.com. So whoever is seeing the rerun should just go refresh. Okay,
that was big is okay, which I think is Kevin 8 George is all I can think that must be.
Oh, no.
Anyway, what we also set up here was this rewrite condition that basically says, this one. That says put HTTPS everywhere because I've got a secure site. But somehow the combination of what I've done here, like I could actually get rid of the S here, might fix it. Let's try that. Whereas podfeed.com/live. So I'm going to get rid of the S there, save, quit. And now let's see. Okay, that brought my face back. Oh, that was cool. So let's see what happens. I'm going to go here and refresh this page and see if it works. So that is with that. Let me do podfeed.com/live, which should go to the HTTPS version. No, I don't know where it's going. Okay. I have no idea what's going on there. I will talk to Bart, but I think you guys should be okay now. I think we're all right. All right. Let's go ahead and get started here. Steve, you were able to hear my audio earlier when I did playback?
Yeah, but let's do it one more time, just since a few things have changed.
Just because of this?
Yeah.
All right. Is Dan here? Oh, no, Dan isn't here. I need to make sure Dan finds out about the IRC chat. So just to let you guys know, because you don't pay attention when I'm actually recording the show, I'm setting up a new IRC chat server. Bart's helping me, and it's going to be a big story. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to probably wreck everything. And but I think that's going to basically end of life the app because we don't have a way to fix it in the app, and Donald is not as available as one would hope. Let me put it that way. All right. So we'll do a little test recording. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. I'll do a little playback. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet. And I have not hit start broadcast in NiceCast yet.
No wonder.
So NiceCast hasn't been getting audio all this time. So could you guys hear it?
Yes.
Anybody paying attention?
Yes,
well, you can.
And I have you on IceCast now.
Okay, good. I don't think we've ever come up with a case where you can hear and they can't, correct?
Right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start. I didn't already talk about the portable jump starter last week, did I?
I don't recall that.
Okay, good. Let me get things okay out of the way in the right place.
Yeah, I was just looking at Donald's app, and I don't see a setting for the chat server.
Yeah, the only thing I could see in there was it's got a thing that says use IP address.
Yeah. But that doesn't allow you to change it.
No. Anybody out there a developer? We will talk about that soon. All right, let's go ahead and start. Here we go. Dangerous risks. Mute yourself there, Steve. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, September 11th, 2016, and this is show number 592. When this week's Chit Chat Across the Pond, I asked Linda Goucher to join me to talk about the new hotness from Apple. This was a bad announcement day for me. My iPhone 6 is 2 years old, and so are Lindsay's and Kyle's. Now, they're grown-up people with real jobs, but Lindsay asked if she could have whatever phone came out as her birthday present. Well, her birthday was in August, and she was willing to wait till the new one came out. Kyle's birthday is in December, and he was willing to wait for the iPhone 7 till December, but it's always annoying to have birthday and Christmas right on top of each other, so we just moved his purchase up to now. Then Steve said he wanted to get the new Apple Watch Series 2, and I couldn't let him have that, not me, right? Oh, and I'd already decided to get the 7 Plus because I'd really like to get a larger screen for these old eyes, plus I want something different. But then I saw the dual camera system and I knew I had to try it. And so I talked Lindsay into going with the 7 Plus as well. After sprinkling AppleCare all over those 5 devices and the 9% sales tax rate here, I'm going to have to pretty much sell off probably both of the cats. So let me know if you want to buy 2 slightly used computer programmer named cats. Tesla's staying though. Anyway, check out Chit Chat Across the Pond with Linda Goucher over at podfeet.com.
I seem to have lost you on the iOS app. I no longer have your audio.
Really?
Nope. Oh, that's weird. I'm hearing myself, but not you.
Oh, have I got... that could be me doing it wrong. Let's take a look here. Going to pass through, which goes to NiceCast input. Did you check it last week?
Did I check it last week, the audio for the app?
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. I usually run it in parallel.
The reason I'm asking is because I messed with it last week, but I did not mess with it this week.
Well, you know, I often just look for audio, and I don't notice if it's you or me. I just
see some audio. Can you check Alpha Geek Media? Because I think it pulls the same feed, doesn't it? Or does it pull the now? No. Or does Alpha Geek Radio?
No, it pulls
audio
the
from YouTube.
Feed. Yes.
Okay. Anybody else using the app? It wouldn't be different for Steve. So let's see. My output goes to pass through. Pass through goes to NiceCast input. And let's look at loopback, which pulls the... So NiceCast input takes Amadeus Pro and Google Chrome. That goes to that. I thought we checked that. Well, actually, I'm not seeing it move.
You want to just restart it?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. No. It was moving because of you. Start it again. And nope. Well, I hate to do this, but would it be better to have me than you?
Sure. Probably.
Because let me try changing that stop broadcast. Let me change it to... Let me change it to pass through and see whether it can hear that. Okay, so now the app can hear me.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting.
Testing for Steve.
Do it again.
Testing for Steve.
Yeah, that shouldn't work.
Yeah. It's just your voice now, but that's better.
I'm going to stop it and start it with the other one just one more time. Okay, select and go to, that should have worked. So I don't think we tested this last week. Okay, does it have me? No. Now you talk?
Testing for Steve's voice.
Why is that? Why does it hear you at all? Oh, because it's pulling Google Chrome.
I didn't see me either.
Yeah, you were in there. I saw it.
It's
okay, I'm going to switch it to me, but let's remember to mess with that later. Okay, so if anybody's on the app, they will hear just me for now, but we'll go back and play with that.
Could this have to do with that redirect?
No, this is something I changed last week, so I don't think we tested it last week. I think that's what's happening.
Okay, I'm not getting either you or me now.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Okay, hold on. There's your voice.
Oh, well, thanks. I stopped it. Okay. It's me. I can see it's broadcasting. All right. Enough with that. We need to do a file, save as. Looks like some fun discussion going on in the about the announcements, huh? Let's see. Yep. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Save. Okay, and we're ready to keep going. You all good, Steve? Okay.
I'm good. I'm in now.
Okay, good. Amazon offered Mark $86 for his watch. Wow. Oh, I didn't take roll. We've got Brett and Nick and Denise and George and Jen Troy appears to actually be here. And Dorothy snuck in. And John and Sandy and Steve and Twin Lakes Images Mark. Here we go. All right, ready? I've mentioned quite a few times that Bart Busschots has two really great podcasts. They're called Let's Talk Photography and Let's Talk Apple. He does each of them once a month, so you get 2 shows a month. And he just had his Let's Talk Apple show with a panel of Gazmaz, Nick Riley, and Elaine Giles. It was a great show, and the reason I'm bringing it up is that Bart did a fantastic job of explaining this whole Irish tax, Apple, European Union Commission fiasco. Not surprisingly, he understands it really well and added some pretty significant pieces of information I haven't heard discussed anywhere else. If you wanted to learn more about the issue and to listen to some very enjoyable folks talking Apple news from a monthly perspective, go check it out at lets-talk.ie. So seriously, you guys, his explanation on that was really, really interesting. There was definitely some that I have never heard before. Really, really cool stuff. Okay. Preview. All righty here. This one I'm going to have to make fun of Steve for running his battery down. Oh, I mean, not make fun of him. Here we go.
What battery?
Nothing. All right, here we go. Back in 2014, I sent a link to my mechanic, Honda Bob, to a product that I thought was a joke. It was a small portable battery that was supposedly you could use to jumpstart your car. Like I said, I assumed it was a joke, but he immediately bought one to test it out. He reported back with a blog post about how it actually worked. The device is called the Powerall Power Bank, and it comes in 2 sizes, 16,000 milliamp hours and 12,000 milliamp hours. After Honda Bob's vote of approval, I bought one for each of our cars and for each of our kids' cars. Now, you might be asking yourself why I'm telling you about this again if you already heard about it in 2014. Well, last week, Steve and I wanted to go for a bike ride, and so we got out his portable compressor to fill our tires. It plugs into the 12-volt auxiliary power in a car, what we used to call the cigarette lighter port when smoking was a thing. Remember those? Anyway, the compressor draws juice from the car's battery. Once Steve was on a roll filling our bike tires, he decided to fill the tires on both of our cars as well. You can already see where this is going, right? Sure enough, he managed to drain the battery on the car. Now, we have jumper cables, of course, the big, giant things, and my car was right there, but I suggested we see for ourselves whether this little battery charger could actually jumpstart a car. Now, I've jump-started a car before, but it's a little bit terrifying. You've got one car running, you've got these cable clamps that if you get switched or touch each other, they're going to short out and destroy the car, blow up your house, kill you. I don't know. It's intimidating. Scary, I got to tell you. With the Powerall power bank, though, you've got the brick of a battery. Think of something maybe half again as big as a battery you'd use to charge your phone a couple of times. And it's got these adorable little tiny cables coming out of it with two little clamps, one red and one black. The cool thing is that the cables are different lengths. So even if you did drop the cables, one cannot touch the other. Now, of course, you could short it out hitting something else, but at least they're not going to hit each other. You'd really have to actively touch them together to have that problem. Anyway, we looked at the instructions that came in the little cardboard box and put the clamps on the battery terminals as instructed, turned on the battery, Steve started the car. Easy peasy, worked perfectly. Now, a key piece of the success of this story is that I keep the Powerall plugged into the power in the center console of my car so that it's always charged and ready. If I didn't, it wouldn't be much use in an emergency, now would it? The Powerall also has 2 USB ports on it, so I often let people use it to charge their phone sitting in the back seat. It's got an emergency light that blinks too, which would be good if you're on a dark road or need to catch somebody's attention. It comes with a wall charger and tips for every single type of phone ever made. The box for the Powerall is much smaller than carrying around giant jumper cables, so I would never go back to those now that I know it works. The 16,000 milliamp hour version is $85 on Amazon, while the 12,000 milliamp hour Powerall is only $60. I bought the smaller battery version, and it jump-started Steve's Acura RDX, which is a smaller SUV. Did it just fine. If you got a much larger vehicle, like a giant Cadillac Escalade, you might need the bigger one. I'm not sure. I'm not an electrical engineer. Anyway, the link in the show notes to the Powerall power bank on Amazon is, of course, there. Now, for blog... Oops. It's about to say, now for blog readers, don't read everything. If you look at the link in the show notes, it says, wait, now it's saying $85. Oh, well, never mind. Have I missed anything? You guys are talking about swimming in Mexico, snorkeling? I love snorkeling. Nothing better. All right, here we go. Close this one. What do we got next? Okay, next we're going to have how to figure out what photos aren't in any album. This is a fun one. Okay. Did I say hi to Rose? Hi, Rose. Okay. Lately, I've been getting questions from people who don't even listen to the podcast and don't read the blog, but they were simply searching for answers online and found podfeed.com. This week, a woman named Melissa asked me a perfect dumb question. She explained that she recently switched from iPhoto to Photos and wanted to know how to identify photos that haven't been moved into albums. If she'd asked me that question a week earlier, I wouldn't have known the answer. One of the best ways to learn things is to teach them. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you have to be good enough at something to teach it, you're going to learn. There's another way you learn, and that's from your audience. Last weekend, I was asked to speak at the Orange Apple Computer Club about Apple Photos. Many people have tried Photos and have given up because it seemed too limited for them. I love giving this talk because I can usually help out at least a few people see how Photos can work for them. It's not for everyone, but I like people to understand its full capability before they make that decision. During my demo, I was explaining smart albums in Photos. With smart albums, you can filter by album, date, description, face, file name, keyword, photo, text, and title. On top of that, you can filter by information about the camera that took the photo. Things like aperture, camera model, flash, focal length, ISO, lens, and shutter speed. Don't know why you'd need those, but it's in there. After I demonstrated how to use these filters to create your smart albums, a member of the audience hollered out, "You can even make a smart album to show you what photos aren't in any album." Well, I applauded him for adding to the general knowledge and told him how excited I was to learn this. And of course, now you know how I knew the answer to Melissa's dumb question. You create a smart album by going to File, New Smart Album, then set the first pull down to Album, the second to is not, and the third to any. Boom, you can see every photo not in any album. I experimented with this and I started dragging photos from the Smart album into real albums. And as soon as you do that, they disappeared from the Smart album that is not in any albums. I really like having my photos in albums, and I thought this would help me clean up. Until I saw in my Smart album, it showed 3,606 photos not in any album. Yeah, maybe I'll just leave them be. And that didn't record at all. Arr! Why does that happen? You get to hear that again.
Get the sausage maker out.
You get to hear it all again. I'm glad that was a short one. I have got to learn to look at that every time. I do not know why. Sometimes it just doesn't record. The record thing was up. Glad that was short. Call it a practice session. Yep. Oh, Cheese is here.
That's David,
Thanks
by
for
the
Cheese
way.
is David. You beat me to it. Hey, NosillaCast isn't getting me anymore. That's interesting. I'm going to stop. I think that's probably something's gone wrong with Audio Hijack again. That's why that's not an Amadeus Pro failure. I think that's a Audio Hijack problem. Let me stop and start. Okay, now let's see if it's working. Yep, that just fixed NosillaCast. So all that time, nobody on the app was able to listen.
All right, let me test my voice.
Do it again.
No.
Wait, talk again.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. No, it's not
you
getting
shouldn't
me.
be able to be heard. Wait, talk again. Let me stop the broadcast. Let me switch something. We'll just try it one more time. We'll go to, what did I say? It should be NosillaCast input. All right. Let me see. Oh, talk, Steve.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
There it is. We're both on it.
So what was that?
It was Audio Hijack messing up.
Oh. Okay.
All right. Allison sounds like she's in a drum. Did the audio change?
Yeah, it does sound different.
Really? What describe it?
A little bit echoey, but a low echo.
Remember last week I said I heard a hum? No? You don't remember that?
I don't hear a hum. It doesn't sound like that to me. Can you do again what you did to Audio Hijack?
Well, here, let me do this. Let me do this. No, I just stopped and started. Let me do this. I'm going to start talking, and right now I just changed it to a different way.
That does change the sound. I'm not sure if that's normal. Try to change
it back. Did it change it back, or what did it do?
I think it's back to where it was.
And I'm guessing that now it sounds weird again.
I need more voice.
Does it sound weird now? Weird.
Actually, it sounds okay now.
Okay, they're saying kind of echoey. Change again. Not good. No, it is not. Mark is not happy. All right, let me see what's going on here. This is fun. Let me see what my settings are. HOA input. This is interesting. But I would have to do this to show you what I'm doing. Do this. All right, so this is Audio Hijack. So this is my microphone where it's a Shure MVI. It goes through an equalizer, dynamics processor, sets the volume, peak RMS, and then it goes to the output device, and it's set to pass through and NosillaCast input. So this is something that the Audio Hijack people told me to add. And what that allows me to do is here on NosillaCast, I have my input set to NosillaCast input. If I set it to pass through, you can't hear Steve. You can only hear me. When I set it to NosillaCast input, you can hear both of us. And that is because a third piece of software they sell called Loopback.
Maybe Loopback is buggy.
Well, Loopback takes Amadeus Pro and Google Chrome and sends them to NosillaCast input. And separately, I'm sending my voice to NosillaCast input. So 3 things are going to NosillaCast input.
Sounds like your voice is duplicated.
Well, but all that should affect is anything that's using NosillaCast input as the source. And the Google Hangout is not using NosillaCast input. It's using pass-through. So I don't, but if I turn this block off, Now you're going to tell me that my voice sounds better. Does it sound better now?
It's different. I'm not sure I can say it's better, but
okay,
it's less like a drum.
Less like a drum. Well, we want Mark happy. He's one of my bosses now. But if I do that, the app stops working. Should we assume the app should, because that's now the only thing using the NosillaCast input.
Where's your recording coming off of?
The recording is coming off of, let's see what it's using. Go to preferences here, and the input is pass-through. So it should only be getting this.
Yeah, I say let's just live with the drum.
Well, let me listen to it. Battery version, and it jump-started Steve's Acura RDX. Okay, so that isn't being affected by the problem. That sounds fine.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, should I kill? But you'll notice here in NosillaCast, because I shut off the NosillaCast input, this is not moving. So I'm going to stop the broadcast and let's see if anybody notices.
Does it matter the volume is set to the lowest there?
Let's see. No.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah, that just doubled you. That's interesting. I'm going to stop it and let's find out if anybody complains, because that'll tell us whether anybody's using the app who's not in the chat room. Okay, Mark is saying that was before you. Now there's an echo after that last change. That was right. Okay, I'm going to ask a question to try to get it in the right timeline here. Does it sound okay now? Now let's wait and see what Mark and Sandy and George and John and everybody said. So I'm stopping this. And I could actually kill the NosillaCast input. No, it doesn't sound good? Oh. What do you think, Steve? They're all saying it sounds bad. Oh, Denise says it sounds okay. It's not great. You normally have better sound. What would that be? All right, let's bring this up. This is going to be a hole in the space-time continuum. But if I look at this, hangout on air input. Oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Let's go find loopback, hit back forward. Loopback takes Amadeus Pro and audio hijack. So audio hijack. Oh, maybe I did change that one too. Amadeus Pro and audio hijack. Why doesn't that take pass through? Oh, because it can't take pass through. You can't add these together. Not so much bad, but echoey. I'm going to have to noodle this, guys. Move that out of the way, because I think I got to keep going, especially if I'm going to have recordings that don't work. All right, I'm going to stop this. Very interesting. I did mess with it last week. So there's that. It's interesting that you're saying that the NosillaCast input thing didn't fix it, but that's what I did that started it. All right. Close all these things. All right, let's start this recording again, see if it's working. Sounds the same to me on my iPad. All right. Yeah, just take your good headphones off. Everything will be fine. And my video is showing. Right. Hey, Steve. Lindsay sent something that she said, sorry to send this when the show's starting, but she wanted me to know something. If she wrote that to you, can you check it and make sure it's not something I need to stop and go check? Okay, George says, don't worry about it if your recording's okay. Yeah, it sounds okay to me.
Send it to you.
I don't know. Just if she sent it to you, I'm saying. All right, I'm going to do the recording. Lately, I've been getting questions from people who don't listen to the podcast and don't even read the blog, but they were simply searching for answers online and found podfeed.com. This week, Melissa asked me a perfect dumb question. She explained that she recently switched to iPhoto from Photos and wanted to know how to identify photos that haven't been moved into albums. If she'd asked me that question a week earlier, I would not have known the answer. One of the best ways to learn is to teach. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you have to be good enough at something to teach it, you're going to learn. And there's another way you learn, and that's from your audience when you do the teaching. Last week, I was asked to speak at the Orange Apple Computer Club about Apple Photos. Many people have tried Photos and given up because it seems too limited for them. I love giving this talk because I can usually help at least a few people see how photos can work for them. It's not for everyone, but I like people to understand its full capability before making the decision. Anyway, during my demo, I was explaining smart albums in photos. With smart albums, you can filter by album, date, description, face, file name, keyword, photo, text, and title. On top of that, you can even filter by information about the camera that took the photo. Things like aperture, camera model, flash, focal length, ISO, lens, and shutter speed. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. After I demonstrated how to use the filters to create a smart album, a member of the audience hollered out, "You can even make a smart album to show you what photos aren't in any album." Well, I applauded him for adding to the general knowledge and told him how excited I was to be able to learn from him. And of course, now you know why I knew the answer to Melissa's dumb question. You create a smart album by going to File, New Smart Album, and then set the first pull down to Album, the second to Is Not, and the third to Any. Boom, you can see every photo that's not in any album. I experimented with this and I started dragging photos from this smart album into real albums, and they disappeared from my new smart album. I really like having my photos in albums, and I thought, wow, this is really going to help me clean up, till I saw that I have 3,606 photos not in any album. Maybe I'll just leave them be. Save. 3,606 photos not in any album. Yeah, my sound sounds fine. Maybe something else happened. Who knows? All right, let's close this guy.
Also, the Hangout audio sounds pretty good, better than what I'm hearing live as a participant in the Hangout. In other words,
are you in the Hangout twice?
Well, I'm in as a direct participant where I see things live, and then there's the version that's delayed 30 seconds, what everyone else sees, and that sounds better. And I don't know why they would be different.
That makes no sense. So maybe Google Hangouts is just having a weirdness, right?
Could be.
All right. Hey, Steve, do you need to be reminded to make the rice?
Sure. I may have to leave.
Well, do you need to start it? Because it's about an hour to dinner.
Yeah. All right.
It sounds like you're going to have to make regular rice if you haven't started it yet, right?
Yeah.
Or we don't need rice.
How do you feel about rice tonight?
I don't know, guys. Let's not have rice.
All right. No rice tonight. No rice for you.
No rice for you. All right. Let me get my dumb question corner music. And we'll put it right there. All right. I'll just leave them be. Wait, what was that at the end? You hear that? Whoop? I'll just leave them be.
Dumb questions. What is?
How come I always have to?
It's time for Dumb Question Corner.
I probably should have played that before the other one, right? Right? Am I right? Oh, well. Well, I probably should have played that before the first dumb question, but we have another dumb question. All right. We'll put that right here. I don't know where. Let's bring you right about. Come over there. Another dumb question.
Hello.
Another dumb question.
Hello, Granny. Congratulations on your first Grand Geek. I will assume it's okay to say Grand Geek because, well, any baby brought in by Apple Watch has got to be a Grand Geek, right? So anyway, Todd McKinn here from the Trucker Dump Podcast. I'm
going to skip over this because we are running long. Because these shenanigans going on here. Just can tell how long this looks. Hang on.
By the way, George provides a helpful tip. You can make hard-boiled eggs with your rice cooker.
Really?
That's what he says.
Don't you have to have a special insert or something for it?
I don't know.
Squash.
You just throw those babies in there. But what setting would you put it on? Brown rice?
Yeah. Good question. So basically, Todd McCann asked, why do people use playlists for podcasts? Here we go. Well, I'm going to give a short answer and then a long drawn-out explanation of why this is an issue for me right now. The short answer has a few pieces to it. Todd likes long-form podcasts, as do I, but not all podcasts are 45 minutes or longer. macOS Ken is a favorite, and it's often in the 10 to 15-minute length. And what if you have only 15 minutes left of a long podcast and you want to listen to the rest of that and then switch over to another show? If you're sitting at your desk, that's no big deal. But what if you're driving? I don't know, like a trucker? Please don't tell me that you look away from the road while driving and fiddle with your phone, right? Even just going for exercise, I find it interrupts my speed walks if I have to select a new episode. Other methods let you play podcasts one after another, but they don't usually give you the granularity I want. Let's say I've got only 15 minutes left of Let's Talk Photography and a 10-minute daily tech headlines and a 30-minute clockwise that I haven't started. If I can put them in a playlist in the order I want, then I can hit play, go on my run or my walk, and never have to stop and find the next show. Todd's question came at a perfect time. On my iPhone, I've been using Pocket Casts ever since Terry Austin reviewed it back in 2013. It was a terrific app that met all of my needs. Here's some of the things I loved about Pocket Casts. You get both global and podcast specific settings. So it lets you set the start time by podcast, which is great if the podcaster often rambles or does ads for the first 2 minutes. I don't mind ads, but you know what? You got to earn the ad time for me. Talk to me for a little while before advertising. You can set which shows download automatically and which ones you'll ask for on demand. Along with that, you can set auto cleanup globally and change it for individual podcasts. If you're out and about and forget to download a show, hitting the download button gave you the option to stream over cellular, so you didn't have to wait around for the show to start. And finally, Pocket Casts allowed me to make playlists. Now, you'll notice that I've been kind of slipping in and out of present and past tense. That is not an accident. An update came out for Pocket Casts recently that has made me really cranky. They did a few annoying things, but I took to the Twitters because they took away my precious playlist. That was the main reason I was tweeting about it. So I used to make a running playlist and a driving playlist with Pocket Casts, and it was awesome. But when they took it away, I've been in communication with Monica at Shifty Jelly, who makes Pocket Casts, and through about 5 emails back and forth, there does appear to be a way to let me do what I want. There's a double secret hidden feature in Pocket Casts called Up Next. Monica was very helpful in explaining how to get to Up Next because it was non-obvious. Let me walk you through it. First, you tap on a podcast in the main interface. That's a place where you see big album artwork or maybe a list if you've so chosen to display it that way. You tap the play icon next to an episode. Now, stop playback on that show. At the bottom, you're going to see what they call the mini player. It shows a small play button and a tiny version of the artwork. Now, here's the hidden bit. Swipe from right to left on the mini player. This takes you to the double secret hidden Up Next list. But it will say your Up Next list is empty. Well, that's a big help, isn't it? Anyway, now look back up at the list of episodes for the current podcast. Instead of hitting play, this time press and hold on the episode name or play button. This will reveal a hidden menu that includes Add to Up Next. Now, if you swipe from right to left on the mini player, that one episode will now be an Up Next. After you throw a few podcast episodes into the Up Next area, you'll realize you want to change the order. Simply press and hold, and you can drag them back and forth to the order that pleases you. You'll also get a little X that when you drag the episodes onto it, it'll remove that episode from the Up Next list. Note that while the mini player is showing the Up Next list, whatever podcast you bring up on the main part of the screen will have every play button turn into an Add to Up Next button. Unfortunately, this button is a pale green circle with a very thin plus sign inside it that's also in pale green, and in possibly even paler green text, it says Up Next below it. Now, I only know what it says because Monica told me it was there. It is positively impossible to read in broad daylight with my sunglasses on. Now, I have to wear sunglasses because they're bifocal, so it's the only way I can see it. Except I can't see it because I got sunglasses on. Anyway, there's one more way to add an episode to Up Next. If you tap on the episode name without hitting the play button, there'll be a couple of icons showing, one of which looks like 3 lines and a little plus button. If you tap on it, you've added that episode to the Up Next list, and it changes to a check mark. Of course, there's no visual or audio feedback to tell you that it's the Up Next list, because that would take all of the challenge out of it. So once you know the trick, it's actually easier than using a playlist and very pleasing visually. I ran some tests with VoiceOver, and with Lino Morales' help, I was able to figure out how to trigger a long press, and it worked reasonably well. The only thing that didn't work was when you're in the Up Next list, you can't hear the name of the podcast episodes, so it'd be kind of hard to rearrange them. On the older version of Pocket Cast, if you tried to download an episode you hadn't yet downloaded, you'd get an option to stream. It would warn you if you were on Wi-Fi, but yeah, which was kind of a nice touch. Unfortunately, the stream option seems to have also been removed. I was having to download and stand around waiting for it before I could start exercising or driving. Since I had Monica's ear, I decided to complain to her about the missing stream function. Well, again, the feature wasn't gone, but it was hidden. If you haven't yet downloaded a podcast, tap and hold on an episode name, and now you'll see stream along with the add to Up Next. Pocket Cast is still my podcatcher of choice on the iPhone, but if it weren't for Monica, I would have bailed on the app for sure. I'm thinking maybe the developers are the generation that thought up the Snapchat and Pokemon interfaces, where secret gestures you can only learn by word of mouth make them hard for adults. Anyway, that's my long answer to Todd's question of, why do you care about playlists?
Okay, rice is a cooking.
Oh, you decided you wanted rice?
Yeah, all that talk about rice.
Did you go white rice?
I went white just for the time.
A little faster. I think it still takes an hour, doesn't it?
Probably.
Here, let me listen to this.
Minutes or so. What is the point? What am I missing?
Well, I'm going to give a short answer. Let me increase the volume for him. Let's crank that up.
Podcast every 45 minutes or so. What is the point? What am I missing?
Oh.
What is the point? What am I missing?
Well, I'm going to give a all right. Are we really only at 9 minutes of recording? No, 15. Jeez. It's 1:45. I'm getting hungry. All right, what's next? I think it's the new IRC server next. No.
Boy, you have a lot of segments.
I have a lot of segments today.
Are you going for a record?
For a standalone episode, this is a pretty long one. All right, here we go. Better get moving though. Enough goofing around. I don't think anybody's listening to me. Told my sister Android user about that, and she said it was because people had faith in Samsung. Shriek! What was it they were having faith in about Samsung? That's funny. Oh my gosh. David says the Sunday ad inserts from Target and Best Buy both feature the Note 7.
Oh, that's not good.
Seriously? Oh, here it was. Sandy says, explain why Apple stock goes down when something great happens, new equipment, etc., and Samsung stock goes up when their phones explode. Did it really go up? That's amazing. I actually feel kind of bad for Sony. I mean, that's got to have been a bad day. Can you imagine just going, our flagship phone comes out before the iPhone 7 and it's exploding. Not a good day. Okay, here we go. Remember a few weeks back when I told you that if there's something you'd like me to do on the podcast or blog, you should just ask, right? I told you it was no guarantee that I'd do it, but it was worth a shot. Last week, Chad... That is not his name.
Chad Black?
Well, I wrote Chad Backer, and I don't think that's his name. What was his name? Chad...
Baker?
Baker. Thank you. I don't have to go look it up. Baker. Oh, geez, I don't want mail open. Okay, Chad. Okay. Chad Baker, Baker. Thank you, dear. All right. There we go. All right. Remember a few weeks back when I told you that if there's something you'd like me to do on the podcast or blog, you should just ask? I told you it was no guarantee that I'd do it, but it was worth a shot. Last week, Chad Baker took me at my word and sent me this email. He wrote, "Hi, Allison. Love the podcast. I wanted to suggest adding a Patreon link to your ways to help. I've started supporting several podcasts via Patreon, and I would love to add the NosillaCast to that list." Well, guys, I don't want to deny Chad, so I did it. I thought it'd be really hard, but it was actually pretty easy. And most importantly, it's easy for you too. If you go to podfeed.com/Patreon, sign up to be a patron, and then you pledge how much you think each show is worth. So every time I post a NosillaCast, your pledge will go to support the show. I thought the math might get too complex if I included Chit Chat Across the Pond too, since there's like 8 to 10 shows a month with, 5-week month and all that. Anyway, so I'm only going to post the NosillaCast shows in Patreon as they call them paid for episodes. But here's the deal. If you're having trouble making ends meet, or if you're not putting enough money away in your kid's college fund, I do not want you to pledge to Patreon for the NosillaCast. This money will go to help fund the show, paying for servers and hosting and tools to make it happen, but that should never be ahead of providing for your family. I've actually hesitated all this time on doing Patreon because I'm worried people who can't afford to will donate. If you can afford to, hey, go for it. Well, I announced the new Patreon through social media, and in just a few hours, Mark, Denise, Brett, Richard, Klaus, Michael, Kevin, Dorothy, and of course, Chad had all pledged to help the show. I was floored. Get this, Bob Lee actually wrote me a thank you note for setting up the Patreon. How crazy is that? You know what? The NosillaCast castaways rock. No sound? Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, Sandy can hear me. Okay. Maybe David has a filter on when people do ads. I can yell louder.
David is on Android.
He is. Oh, I wonder if he was through some other. Okay. Oh. Denise said there has to be a cat showing for her pledge. Is. All right. I paid my dues.
That's great. Otherwise known as bobblehead.
Bobblehead, because she can do this to her and she likes it. All right. That was good. Okay, just a little intermission there. Okay, now we got a long one. I told you it's going to be a long show. Not too long. It's 17 minutes so far. Oh, it was an ad blocker. What?
How did John know that?
I don't know. Where's Tesla? I don't know. We'll call her in at the end. Okay. New IRC server. This is long and complicated. Actually, let me give you guys a link to, there's a cool image, cool diagram I made that comes up. It's kind of fun. Out of the way, and we'll go here. You haven't even heard this, Steve. You haven't even read this.
I claim no responsibility to this next post.
You mean because you neglected to edit the blog post? Find out.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the ones that's for sale. All right, here we go. Oh, I read that, my eyes crossed. Donald Burr is a wonderful human being. He's what Steve calls good people. Out of the plain old goodness of his heart, he's been letting me mooch off of his server for the IRC chat we enjoy during the live show. I love that I get this free ride, but when something goes amiss, I have no way of fixing it myself, and we have to bother Donald. If he's not just sitting by his computer at 5 p.m. on a Sunday night with nothing better to do, then we're kind of stuck. Whenever there's an Apple announcement, we really like to get in the live chat room. Everybody joins in. It's a lot of fun. Well, this week, Donald's IRC server's voice bot stopped functioning, and the voice bot's job is to give people voice. That meant that Steve, as the admin, had to give each person voice as they came in. Turns out I'm not even an admin, so even I couldn't chat without his permission, and you could just imagine how well that went off. Anyway, then towards the end of the announcement, the server simply threw all of us out of the chat room. Even if Donald had been sitting around waiting for my call, I doubt if he would have been able to fix it in time to help us, but still, we felt kind of like we'd really like to be able to fix this. So I've decided it's time to stop mooching off of him and create my own IRC chat server. All this taming the terminal stuff is, it's kind of emboldened me to take on bigger and bigger challenges. I mean, how hard could this be, right? So I wrote to Bart and I told him what I was planning to do. Somewhere in the back of my mind, it occurred to me, there might be a reason why I shouldn't just jump in and do this all by myself. I had this weird feeling that it might have more challenges than I was expecting. Here's what Bart wrote back. Firstly, beware, you are treading on a minefield. IRC is one of the more troublesome protocols on the net. I would strongly advise you to consider keeping this server and your web server totally separate. That way, if the chat server gets compromised, Podfeet continues to exist. A cheap $5 or $10 a month droplet on DigitalOcean or a similar virtual machine on Linode should be plenty for a server that only has one job to do. Secondly, check your terms of service with any provider you may use for IRC. Many hosting companies explicitly ban IRC on their networks because of its long history of a use of command and control for malware. If you install IRC on a server hosted at a company that does not allow it, you may find your server killed without notice. You definitely don't want that to happen if you use the same server you do for the web. Well, I guess my instincts were correct. Like Bart said, though, sure sounds like fun, right? Well, while I waited for the weekend to come along when Barton and I could play with it together, I thought maybe there's no harm in installing an IRC server on a spare Mac inside my network. Now, don't worry, you don't need to play discordant music of doom. Nothing bad happened, but I thought it'd be fun. So remember, I've recently installed iPerf to test my network and ImageMagick to modify images, and I installed them both through the thing called Homebrew Repository on the command line, right? So I thought I'll try doing it in Homebrew. I started my search for IRC servers there. I found a server called NGIRC, which stands for Next Generation IRC. Next Generation, like Star Trek Next Generation. We can remember this, right? Anyway, I installed Homebrew on this spare Mac that I have, and then NGIRC. The installation came with a simple to read and understand configuration file. After I installed it, I waited for the weekend to talk to Bart. On Saturday, Bart and I got together to talk about getting a real server set up. I had remembered hearing about DigitalOcean from Joe Hecht about a year ago, and if Bart endorsed it, who was I to argue? Bart has a code that gives him credits if others sign up for it. So if you want to do this too, you might want to check with Bart and get him some credits. And it even gave me some credits too when I used his code. I punched maybe 3 buttons, entered a credit card, and I had a virtual server set up. I mean, it was seconds to get this thing running. Seriously, it was as easy as Joe had said it was. Since IRC is totally text-based, I knew I didn't need a big server, so I chose their $5 a month plan. That gives me one CPU with 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabytes of storage on an SSD, and a terabyte of data transfer. Seriously, overkill for what I wanted to do. I mean, text isn't that big. By the way, DigitalOcean doesn't actually charge by the month, it's by the hour. So if you want to test something for a few hours and then destroy it, you're only talking about 0.7 of a cent per hour to do it. It's really, really cool. Oh, I did check in their terms of service, and they do allow IRC. All right, so the server we built was Linux, obviously, and we chose CentOS. Now we need to find an IRC server package. Bart explained that Homebrew is really meant for experimenting with stuff, like at home. He suggested I'd be better off using Yum. Yum, which stands for Yellow Dog Updater Modified, is an open source command line package management utility for Linux. The benefit, as Bart explained to me, is that it will allow me to keep the server updated without doing anything by hand. So we ran the command yum search IRC, and we didn't find any IRC servers. Bart then suggested that we needed to get EPEL. EPEL stands for the Extra Packages for Enterprise Linux, specifically Fedora. In other words, EPEL gives you more stuff that you can install with Yum. At this point, I started to get a wee bit confused. I knew we'd installed CentOS as my Linux operating system, but now we're talking about Fedora, but we'd also, in the midst of this conversation, he said something about Red Hat, and I know that Red Hat is a commercial enterprise type of Linux, so I was getting a little bit confused. Now, if you're as confused as I am, let me explain what Bart explained to me. By the way, I also found a great diagram at danielmeisler.com that I've put in the show notes that's really helpful for walking you through what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Fedora is run by the Red Hat company. It's community-driven, and it's focused on quick releases to get features and functionality out quickly, and it's free. So that's Fedora. Red Hat is based on Fedora, but it's run by Red Hat, not the community, by the company Red Hat. And it focuses on long releases for stability. And this is their commercial paid-for product. You might sometimes see it as RHEL, which stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So we've got Fedora and then Red Hat. CentOS is based off the commercial releases of Red Hat. So think long, stable releases, but it's run by the community. So basically, CentOS is Red Hat without the cost or the support you get with Red Hat. All right, everybody with us? They're kind of all the same thing, basically, is what that says. So from this, I gather that if EPEL is for Fedora, it will work with Red Hat and CentOS. So we've got Yum. How do we get EPEL to work with it? Pretty easy. We just install EPEL with Yum. Once we installed EPEL, we could search again for IRC, and guess what we found? NGIRC, our next generation IRC, the exact same IRC server that I installed on my spare Mac. This was great news because now we know we can spend some time setting up the configuration files locally to get them the way I like them, and then simply push that file up to my new fancy DigitalOcean server and we'll be good to go. The one other thing we needed, I know Bart actually said he has to do some work on, he said this when he talked about Red Hat, was he said that the Red Hat firewall is really strong and he'll actually have to do some work to allow people to get into the server. So the last thing we needed to do was on the server side, we needed to connect the server somehow to Podfeet. So this is just a piece of hardware sitting there with an application running on it. What does it have to do with what we're doing over at Podfeet? So this was kind of fun because it helped me really understand something better that I had done before, but I finally understand it now. So let's step back a little bit. I have 3 companies I'm working with. GoDaddy is where I've bought the domain registration for podfeet.com. So I own the right to use podfeet.com, or I'm leasing it, I should say. I don't have a physical server at GoDaddy. It's simply where I control that domain and I tell the internet how to find Podfeet related things. So for example, when you type podfeet.com, you're directed to 198.57.192.33. How does that happen though? This is accomplished through what's called an A record. With the A record, when I moved my hosting services, that's the hardware where my web server actually lives, over to Bluehost, I use the A record at podfeet.com to link the domain name to that new IP address. So it's just simply a field that says this name goes to this IP address. So that's how podfeet.com exists. And it exists, like I said, over the web servers over on Bluehost. So now we've got a second server. This one's over at DigitalOcean, and that's going to be hosting the IRC chat server. Bart and I decided that chat.podfeet.com would be a good name for it. So I went into GoDaddy again, and in the domain Podfeet, I added a second A record, this time linking chat.podfeet.com to 138.68.6.49, which is the IP address of my DigitalOcean server. Like I said, if this is confusing, I created a pretty little diagram, again with draw.io, my new favorite diagramming tool, that shows the 3 services and how they're interconnected with these fancy A records. So the stage has now been set for phase 2, and that's actually going to be getting the server started with the right configuration file. I'm definitely going to need Bart's help for this, even on my internal network. Before I went on my walk this afternoon, I hadn't even figured out how to make the darn thing go. Like I kept typing like go and start and launch, and none of those things work. So I haven't tested what he told me on my walk yet. We'll see, but I'm sure I'll get the hang of this soon. So the reason you really care is if you come to the live chat room from time to time, you actually do care about this whole story because you're going to need to change your IRC chat room settings on your client to get to the new server when it's up and running. I'm giving you fair warning to pay attention. I'll be talking about it on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, and obviously on the show for instructions on how to connect when this goes live. The one thing we're probably going to lose is the chat for the NosillaCast app because Donald Burr also wrote the NosillaCast app and he hard-coded his server into it. It's possible at some later date I could get him to change that, but I would expect that that's probably going to have to stop running. I hope this isn't too much of a hardship, but it hasn't been updated in ages. And like I said up front, he's got a life of his own, so he hasn't been able to spend too much time on it. I do want to give a shout out though. If anyone out there wants to take a crack at writing a NosillaCast app, I'd be glad to supply the assets and do whatever else I can do to help make that happen. That was a long one.
Is that the one I didn't review?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that explains it.
What?
I'm joking.
You're such a slut. See what I have to put up with?
Who did the review earlier for you? Was that Terry?
No, that was Trucker Dump.
Trucker Dump.
All of a sudden, his name just blanks from me. What is it? His name is Todd McCann.
Todd, right.
All right. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, suggestions. You can email me at allison@podfeet.com. You can follow me on Twitter @podfeet. Check out our NosillaCast. Okay, too many stutters. Start that over. All right. Wait, is there an earthquake?
Yeah, there was last week. 5.8. And I think it was near George. He felt it. 80 miles, he says.
Wow. Yeah, we would notice. We would go, huh? Kind of 5.8, right? That's respectable.
That would get our attention. But the point is that Oklahoma and that area is getting a lot of earthquakes lately. They're starting to rival Southern California, well, California in general.
I don't know if it's still true, but the something like 4 of the top 10 earthquakes in the United States were like somewhere along the Mississippi River. They're like in Mississippi or Louisiana or something place like that. I've actually got the article in a file I just filed. I don't know if that's still true. Yeah, I wonder about that fracking, right?
Well, that's the theory.
That's not good if that's true. All right, one more time. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions like we got a bunch of today, your comments and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. You can follow me on Twitter @podfeet. Check out our NosillaCast Google Plus community at podfeet.com/Google Plus and our Facebook group at podfeet.com/Facebook. Don't forget we have a Patreon now. Where do you think it is? podfeet.com/Patreon. If you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCast castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. I have stuttered on so many words tonight.
We'll let that one go.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
Whatever else I can do to help make that happen. Well, that's going to wind us up.
So that's interesting.
What's
when
that?
you play back the recording, the sound is better.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not. That would imply to me it's not Google Hangouts because I'm getting it through the same channel. It's just how we're hearing the live voice.
Yeah. So what am? That's interesting.
We don't need to do that now. I just wanted to give you another piece of a little clue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that should be the same.
You would think.
Yeah, one would think. Let's see. Okay, that's nice. Well, I probably should let the class go if they want. Did we? I guess everybody else already talked about whether they're buying toys.
The one thing you didn't talk about, maybe you want to just mention, because someone asked, I think it was Denise or Sandy, about our little Star Trek 50th gathering.
Oh, yeah.
You can just say a word or two.
Yeah, we had fun. It was interesting because it was sort of like when you go to a wedding and they ask you whether you're with the bride or the groom, because there were 2 people putting it on. It was John Champion, who does the Mission Log podcast with Ken Ray, and that's who Steve was there to see primarily. And then a guy named Larry Nemechek, who, what did we decide he is, a writer?
A writer, I think more of a Star Trek historian, and he keeps the community together. He has his own website. He contributes to some of the Star Trek products.
The real stuff?
Some of them.
And
he has input.
So
and he played Bones in the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Continues, the web series, which is a follow-on to Star Trek TOS, the original
Denise
series.
wants to know, was Patrick Stewart there?
No.
Yeah, he was there, but we didn't want to take picture and everything. It just seems sort of gauche, so we just didn't mention it, enthusiastic NosillaCast away.
this real
Quick. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Okay, now you can talk again.
But William Shatner was there.
Well, we were watching TV because it was on BBC America. So that was fun. There was a guy named Dave Rossi who did, he was basically doing a lot of narration of the TV shows while they were on. He would be saying what they were saying. It was pretty funny. Anyway, it was a good time. Oh, and we dragged David Sparks there, which was fun because he was up in Santa Monica doing a thing. I need to send him a note and thank him for coming. I thought that was fun. Don't you think, Steve?
Yeah. I'm going to give people here in the chat room a link to Larry Nemechek's toast to the 50th anniversary. One of his 3 or 4 toasts.
Okay. The one I wish we had recorded was Dave Rossi.
Yeah, that was good.
This one. Yeah. Did also send them the link to the Star Trek Continues?
I will.
Oh, before I forget, tell Steve that as more details are coming out, Dropbox are starting to look worse and worse. Oh,
that's from Bart?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's talking real time. I almost did something in the show to say don't worry about it. Oh, they're not being malicious, but they're being careless.
But does it require any immediate action on our part? Because earlier today it did not. I just want to make sure we don't need to get something out there.
He says they're not being malicious, but they're being careless. Are you saying, is there anything we're supposed to be doing?
Yes.
Steve asks, is there anything we should be doing? Right. Got this. So if you guys want to keep change your passwords and do 2-factor.
Yeah, Bart didn't recommend that. It had more to do with the pop-up boxes that they're presenting to the user and what they implied. But we'll hear more.
He says full disk encryption should protect you from the biggest problem. Uh-oh.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
I don't have full disk encryption. There. They're keeping a plain text copy of your password on disks?
Nah, I did not hear that.
I wrote a non-Girl Scout safe word back to him about that. I do not have full disk encryption.
Well, that's unacceptable. Keeping a clear password on their disks.
Why? So they can use it to regain the extra privileges they shouldn't be asking for. Okay, wait. On whose disk? On our own disks? That's what's going on. I think that's what he's saying is they're on your local disk, not on their disk. Oh, yikes. Okay.
That's really bad behavior. That's
note to self. Yikes. Okay, why is this not self? Finally, turn on full disk encryption. Something's wrong with my keyboard. What is going on here? It's not typing properly. Okay, so no, George, he is saying it does affect. If it's saying that you've got a plain text copy of the password to your Dropbox on your local disk. So if you've got a MacBook and you go on travel and somebody gets a hold of it, they've got access to your Dropbox password.
I think, needless to say, more to come on this. When will the next security bits be?
Next week.
Oh, that's too long to wait. Can you have like an emergency show or emergency session?
Yeah, really. He says, you know how the way the text expander makes you turn on a setting before it will work, and you know how awkward that is and how I'm sure that causes support calls? Well, all this seems to be about Dropbox trying to save users from that. Wow. This sounds terrible. Huh. And in the process of making their software convenient, they have played fast and loose with our security. Okay. DEFCON 1, Mayday, Mayday is what Denise is writing. Oh, that's great. So File Vault won't protect your files in the cloud. Yeah, George, that's not what this is about. It's not about protecting your files in the cloud. This is saying that if you have files stored in Dropbox, the key to your or the password to your Dropbox is being saved locally in plain text.
On your local drive.
On your local drive. Yeah.
Like it's cached. Well, it's not in a browser, right? It's stored somewhere in a Dropbox facility.
Maybe. Okay, thanks. Sort of.
Well, this is a good way to end the show.
Yeah. Let's just go get drunk or something.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice week.
Yeah. Bart sent a little smiley face with that. All right. So yeah, maybe I should turn on that whole disk encryption. I've always been afraid to, but all right. Well, I have to remember. Bart says, "Say hi to the chat room peeps."
Yeah, they all love him right now.
Yeah, that's nice, Steve. All right. So I've got to remember now to do your job, guys. After the NosillaCast is done, you guys have to remind me to do the Patreon because it's an extra step that I've never had to do before. So I got to add that in my list of things to do. So I've got to do Google Plus and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter on 2 accounts and now Dropbox after producing the show. It should be
What do you
easy.
mean do Patreon?
I have to go do something in Patreon for this to be a paid for episode.
Oh, right.
I have to go I have to do something. I have never done it.
Like you created some product.
Yes. Yes. Denise says, do the Patreon after you drop the bomb and run.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. I'm going to call it. Bye.
Good night, Grace. Good night, Gracie.
Oh, no, Tessa. Wait, I promised Tessa. Tessa. Your fans will. Oh, there she is. Come here, baby girl. Your fans want to see you. There she. Oh, come here. Oh, there you are. Oh, such a good girl. She had a bath and she smells really good. Oh, flap. Can you hear the flap? All right. There we go. Now we can go. Oh, this sounds good. What happened to this? See why I don't leave the mic much? All right.
WD-40.
Goodbye, everybody. Say goodbye, Steve.
Bye, Gracie.